I tried to complete Terraria using ice and fire items only. Here's what happened. After spawning, I immediately start looking for the closest snow biome. This is where I'll be able to find most of my early game weapons, accessories and armour. Speaking of, I craft some basic armour and weapons from boreal wood, then delve deep into the icy caverns below. It's at this point where it would probably be quite helpful for me to go over the rules for this challenge. I'll be allowed to use any weapon, armour or accessory that's either explicitly related to ice and fire, or any items that are related to the ice and underworld biomes. All of this is within reason, of course. While the Pigron and its Hambat may be exclusive to the ice biome, you won't find me using it in this playthrough. In the underground, I find the materials needed to craft the Flink Staff, one of only 2 minions allowed in this playthrough. Along with this, I also find some gems which I craft into a hook. Since there are no hooks related to ice or fire, I'll be allowing any hooks, mainly to speed up the early game. After this comes the grind for better gear. I get a Viking helmet from a skeleton for extra defense, craft a Flink's fur coat for an extra minion, and find chests with flurry boots and a blizzard in a bottle for some mobility. Unfortunately, this is where my luck runs out, as with no weapon upgrades in sight, I have to resort to fishing for boreal crates. Before I can catch any, however, I'm thrust from a blood moon straight into a goblin army, and I have to take them down with the small amount of frost daggerfish I'd fished up. Unfortunately, fishing continues to yield no rewards, so instead I decided to go straight into the Eater of Worlds fight. The start of the fight was easy enough, however, once I ran out of frost daggerfish, I had to rely on my ashwood bow and frostburn arrows, which made the fight slow down considerably. I craft a Deathbringer pickaxe, then on my way to the underworld, I find and free the Goblin Tinkerer. This allows me to upgrade my blizzard in a bottle all the way to a white horseshoe balloon, so I don't have to worry about fall damage anymore. Once I do get to the underworld, I mine up as much hellstone as I can. I use the hellstone I've mined to craft a full set of molten armour, an imp staff and the volcano, then after mining some more hellstone I add a molten fury to my collection. Next, I explore the jungle to find an anklet of the wind, the last item I needed to upgrade all the way from flurry boots to frostbark boots. With these upgrades I'm more than ready to fight Skeletron, so that night I build a basic arena and spawn him. The dungeon doesn't offer much other than the obsidian key, allowing me to unlock shadow chests in the underworld for the last tier of fire items in pre-hard mode. With these and a few more off-screen upgrades, I can easily take down the Wall of Flesh. Now that I'm in hard mode, my first priority is getting stronger weapons, and luckily I know exactly where to look. The underground ice biome can provide strong weapons early on that can carry you through most of hard mode. Ice mimics are the obvious target due to their almost guaranteed chance to drop a viable weapon, but it's important not to discount the frost staff and ice sickle dropped by the other frozen enemies. Eventually I decided to set up a farm in the ice biome to get the rest of the weapons I wanted. and while clearing the area, both ended up dropping. However, there's still one more thing to farm for in the ice biome. So I finish up the farm and put it to use until I get a frozen turtle shell. With this obtained, I can now leave the ice caves behind and begin farming for another item, the magic quiver. While on its own, this isn't related to ice or fire at all. It can be combined with a magma stone to create a molten quiver, which definitely is related to fire. It takes a painfully long amount of time for this, but eventually one drops, leaving just 2 upgrades left that both happen to come from the same enemy, ice golems. The next few days are taken up by sleeping and waiting for a blizzard to spawn. Then when it does, I take down ice golems for frost cores and ice feathers, which I use to make my first set of wings and my first and final set of hard mode armour in this playthrough, frost armour. You heard that right, I'll be stuck with frost armour all the way to Moonlord. With these preparations, I'm ready to take down the mechs, so after waiting for night I spawn the first of them, the twins. With the twins defeated, I waste no time in spawning Skeletron Prime. I used Prime's drops to craft one of my favourite weapons in this entire playthrough, the flamethrower. This powerhouse easily overheats the destroyer's defence systems, and turns Plantera from a salad into a stir-fry. In between these fights, I also upgraded from Frost Wings to Flame Wings, and now that Plantera is defeated, I can work towards my final accessory upgrade by taking down paladins in the dungeon. Luckily, the first one drops the item I need, the Paladin's Shield. After combining this with the Frozen Turtle Shell, I finally have knockback resistance, on top of all the other defensive bonuses that it gives. What comes next is an incredibly long and painful process to upgrade my weapons. First, I try to farm for an ice key by using over 20 king slime spawners, followed by taking on the Frost Moon and realising my pre-Plantera weapons aren't even strong enough to get past wave 8. Next was trying to take down ogres during the Old One's army for some of the fire-based weapons they dropped. And finally, farming Diabolists in the dungeon for the Inferno Fort. The only drops I have to show for this is the Elf Melter and Phantom Phoenix, which are both impressive weapons. However, neither did well against the later stages of the Frost Moon, so I decided to go straight to Golem. The Elf Melter really shone here, being able to hit all 3 segments in Phase 1 and making short work of Phase 2, for a total fight time of just over a minute. After repeatedly farming the same 4 events and biomes as I did before Golem for many hours with very little to show for it, I was somewhat at a loss for what to do. So I decided to push on with progression and take down the Lunatic Cultist, which was much easier than either the Frost Moon or the Old One's army. With the Cultist de-radicalised, I could slowly chip away at the Solar Pillar and craft my final tier of fire weapons, the Daybreak and Solar Eruption. These made light work of the rest of the pillars, and then there was nothing more standing in the way between myself and the Moonlord. The last thing I want to say is thank you to everyone who watches these videos. There's a good chance this one will push the channel over 1 million views in total, which is a crazy milestone I never thought I'd reach. The channel is also getting pretty close to 10,000 subscribers, so if you're one of those viewers that enjoy these videos and aren't subscribed yet, then maybe consider subscribing. For now though, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one.